The idea of erasing a bad memory, especially a traumatic one, it's a powerful thought. It's something many of us have probably wished for at some point. Imagine if you could just hit a delete button on the worst moment of your life. Poof, gone. No more flashbacks, no more nightmares, no more that crushing weight in your chest when something reminds you of it. Sounds pretty good, right? It sounds like freedom. For people who've gone through really tough things, trauma isn't just a memory. It's a shadow that follows them. It can change how they see the world, how they trust people, even how they feel safe in their own homes. It can mess with sleep, make simple tasks feel impossible, and strain relationships. It can make life feel like an uphill battle every single day just to exist, just to function. So, the desire to erase that pain, that burden, is totally understandable. It's a natural human response to deep suffering. We want relief. We want peace. And if a memory is causing all that trouble, then getting rid of the memory seems like the most direct path to getting rid of the trouble. But memory, it's not as simple as a file on a computer. You can't just drag it to the trash and empty the bin. Our brains, they're incredibly complex. They're not just storage devices, they're active, living systems that are constantly making sense of things, changing, adapting. And memory, especially a really strong emotional memory, is deeply woven into who we are. It's part of our story, even the parts we wish weren't there. So, let's talk about how memory actually works, in a very simple way. When you experience something, your brain makes connections. Neurons fire together, forming a network. That's how a memory is laid down. But it's not like a video recording that gets perfectly stored away. Every time you remember something, you're not just replaying it, you're actually reconstructing it. It's like telling a story over and over. Each time you tell it or think about it, little details might shift. Your mood at the time you remember. It can change how you feel about it, even how you remember certain parts. It's a dynamic process. Now, a traumatic memory is different. It's often incredibly vivid. It's sticky. It feels real, like it's happening right now. That's because during a traumatic event, our brain goes into survival mode. It floods with stress hormones. These hormones actually help to etch the memory more deeply. It's the brain's way of saying, hey, this was dangerous. Remember this so it doesn't happen again. But sometimes that protective mechanism goes haywire. The memory becomes so intense, so emotionally charged, that it keeps replaying, triggering the same fear and panic as if the event were still happening. That's why you get flashbacks. That's why you get intrusive thoughts. The emotional tag attached to that memory is super glued on. So, knowing that memory isn't a fixed thing, it opens up a different question. If it's reconstructed every time, can we influence that reconstruction? Can we change it? And this is where the science gets really interesting. One of the most promising areas of research is something called memory reconsolidation. It sounds fancy, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. Think of it like this. When you save a document on your computer, it's stored. But if you open that document, make some changes, and then hit save again, you're not just recalling the old document. You're opening it, changing it, and then saving a new version. Memory works kind of like that. When you remember something, especially a well-established memory, it becomes temporarily unstable. For a short window of time, it's open for modification before it saves itself again. This is called the reconsolidation window. Researchers have been looking at ways to mess with the saving process, especially for traumatic memories. One approach involves using certain medications. The most well-known example is a drug called propranolol. It's a beta blocker typically used for heart conditions or anxiety, but it also blocks the effects of stress hormones like adrenaline in the brain. The theory is if you give someone propranolol just before they recall a traumatic memory, or while they are recalling it, those stress hormones won't be able to re-etch the memory with the same intensity. The memory's still there, the facts remain, but the intense emotional punch, the fear, the panic, gets lessened. It's like remembering the story without feeling the gut-wrenching pain it usually brings. It's not erasing the memory, but it's taking away its power to hurt. Imagine sitting down with a therapist. You talk about the traumatic event, you're remembering it, bringing it to the front of your mind. While that memory is active, while it's in that unstable state, you take a pill like propranolol. The idea is that when your brain resaves that memory, it resaves it with less of the emotional charge. You still know what happened. You can still recount the details, but when you think about it later, that sense of dread, that surge of panic, it's just not as strong. It doesn't hijack your system anymore. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's something being actively researched and tried in clinical settings. And it offers a lot of hope. But is that erasing? Not quite. It's more like editing the emotional impact. The factual memory, the narrative of what happened stays. And that's a really important distinction. Many people don't want to forget what happened. They just want to stop feeling the intense pain and fear associated with it. This approach aims to do just that. Beyond drugs that interfere with reconsolidation, there are even more direct, though mostly experimental, ways scientists are exploring memory manipulation. These often involve looking at specific brain regions. The amygdala, for instance, is a small almond-shaped area in the brain that plays a huge role in processing emotions, especially fear. When you have a traumatic memory, the amygdala is usually hyperactive. Researchers are trying to figure out ways to calm it down or even to directly target the neural circuits that hold those painful emotional tags. In animal studies, scientists have used incredible techniques like optogenetics and chemogenetics. These involve genetically modifying neurons in the brain so they can be switched on or off using light optogenetics or specific chemicals chemogenetics. Imagine being able to shine a light on a specific group of neurons that are holding a fear memory and just turn them off. Or use a chemical to quiet them down. It sounds like something out of a movie, and it is, for now, largely confined to the lab, mostly with mice. The precision and invasive nature of these techniques mean they are a long, long way from being used in humans for memory erasure, but they show us the potential for truly targeted intervention at the cellular level. They reveal that memories really are held in specific brain circuits, and those circuits can, in theory, be manipulated. And there's something like deep brain stimulation, or DBS. This is already used for conditions like Parkinson's disease and severe depression. It involves implanting electrodes into specific areas of the brain that deliver electrical impulses. It's like a brain pacemaker. While it's not currently used for memory erasure, the fact that we can selectively stimulate or inhibit specific brain regions for therapeutic purposes opens up possibilities. What if there's a circuit for a traumatic memory that we could learn to calm with DBS? Again, this is very invasive and carries significant risks. It's not a casual solution. But it's another avenue that shows how our understanding of the brain is evolving. And it's not just about these high-tech medical interventions. Many of the therapies we use today for trauma, like MRI movement desensitization and reprocessing or exposure therapy, they also work by modifying how we process traumatic memories. They don't erase the memory, but they help to change its emotional impact. With exposure therapy, for example, you gradually and safely confront the things you've been avoiding because they remind you of the trauma. You might talk about the memory in detail or visit a place that reminds you of it. The idea is that by repeatedly facing the fear in a controlled environment, your brain learns that the thing you fear is not actually dangerous right now. The fear response gradually lessens. It's like teaching your amygdala that it doesn't need to scream danger anymore. You're building new, safer associations with the memory. EMDAR is another fascinating approach. During EMDAR sessions, people recall distressing memories while simultaneously focusing on an external stimulus, like the therapist's moving finger or sounds alternating in each ear. The exact mechanism isn't fully understood, but it's thought that this bilateral stimulation helps the brain to reprocess the traumatic memory. It helps to integrate the memory more adaptively, to move it from that stuck emotional state to a more narrative, less distressing one. People often report that after EMDAR, the memory still exists, but it feels less vivid, less emotionally intense, and less disturbing. It's like the memory has been filed away properly instead of constantly being on high alert. So, all these approaches, both the cutting-edge research and the established therapies, they point towards modification, towards reducing the suffering caused by the memory, rather than simply deleting it altogether. This distinction is crucial. It's like cleaning up a messy room versus demolishing the whole house. But let's pause for a moment and think about the ethics of all this. Even if we could completely erase a traumatic memory, should we? This isn't a simple yes or no question. It brings up a lot of really complicated issues. First, there's the question of what we might lose. Traumatic experiences, as awful as they are, can sometimes teach us incredibly important lessons. They can teach us about danger, about resilience, about who to trust and who not to trust. They can even shape our empathy for others. If you erase the memory, do you also erase the lesson? Do you become more vulnerable to similar situations in the future? Do you lose a part of your hard-won wisdom? It's a bit like saying, I learned to never touch a hot stove again, but I'll erase the memory of getting burned. Would you still avoid the hot stove with the same conviction? Probably not. The painful memory, in a strange way, can be protective. Then there's the question of identity. Our memories, good and bad, they make us who we are. They form our personal history, our narrative. If you start picking and choosing which memories to erase, are you still the same person? Is part of your identity lost? What if the trauma, as horrible as it was, led to profound personal growth, or a change in life path that ultimately was positive? It's a very deep philosophical question. Can you really be whole if you've deliberately edited out big chunks of your past, even the painful ones? For some, the idea of living without that particular pain might outweigh any identity concerns. But for others, it would feel like losing a piece of themselves, even if that piece was a heavy one. And what about unintended consequences? The brain is a deeply interconnected web. Memories aren't stored in isolation. They're linked to other memories, to emotions, to skills, to knowledge. If you try to erase a very specific traumatic memory, could you accidentally erase related memories? What if erasing a memory of a bad car accident also erased your memory of how to drive, or the face of a loved one who was with you? We just don't know enough about the precise mapping of memory to be certain of the exact scope of an erasure. It's like trying to remove a single thread from a very complex tapestry without disturbing the rest of the pattern. It's incredibly risky. Now, let's think about who would get access to this kind of technology if it ever became truly effective at erasure. Would it be a privilege for the rich? What if governments or other powerful groups wanted to erase memories from their citizens or from specific populations? Imagine a world where people could be forced to forget inconvenient truths or historical injustices. This isn't just about personal healing anymore, it becomes a tool for control. It's a very slippery slope. And what about justice? If a victim of a crime could erase the memory of that crime, would that impact their ability to testify? Would it affect the pursuit of justice for the perpetrator? Memories are often crucial evidence. If those memories can be wiped clean, it could undermine our entire legal system. It can make accountability impossible. It's not just about the individual's pain, it's about the broader societal implications. So, where are we really in all this? Are we close to a Men in Black style memory wipe? Probably not, and probably never in that exact way. The reality is far more nuanced and complex. The human brain isn't a simple recording device that can be reformatted. It's a living, breathing, constantly adapting organ. The most promising avenues right now, like memory reconsolidation and targeted pharmacological interventions, aim to dampen the emotional impact of a memory, not delete the memory itself. They seek to uncouple the factual content from the intense, overwhelming fear or distress. This is a very different goal than complete erasure. It's about taking the sting out of the memory so that it no longer controls your life, but it remains as part of your experience. And that's a very important distinction to make. For many people, being able to remember what happened but not be crippled by it is the goal. It's about integration, not obliteration. It's about being able to tell your story without having your body react as if the trauma is happening all over again. It's about being able to move forward with your life, acknowledging what happened, but not being defined solely by it. Many people who have experienced trauma find that over time and with effective therapy, the intensity of the memory does lessen. It doesn't go away, but it becomes less raw, less immediate. It moves from being a constant open wound to a scar. A scar is a permanent reminder of an injury, but it no longer bleeds, and it no longer hurts in the same acute way. You can touch it, acknowledge it, and then carry on with your day. That's often the goal of trauma therapy, to help people integrate the traumatic experience into their life story in a way that allows them to function, to thrive, and to find peace. Think about the value of that journey too. The process of healing from trauma, of confronting difficult memories and learning to live with them, even learning from them, can be incredibly transformative. It can build resilience, it can foster deep self-understanding, it can connect people with others who have suffered. If we just erase the memory, would we also erase the potential for that profound journey of healing and growth? It's not to say that suffering is good, because it's not. Trauma is awful, but the human spirit's capacity to heal, to adapt, to integrate is also a powerful thing to behold. So could we truly erase a specific traumatic memory? The short answer for now is probably no, not in the sense of a complete targeted deletion without collateral damage. At least not with current or even near future technology. The way our memories are wired, the complexity of the brain, makes that a daunting task. But can we significantly reduce the emotional suffering caused by a traumatic memory? Can we make it so that the memory no longer holds us captive? Yes, absolutely. We are already doing that to a degree with existing therapies and medications. And the science of memory reconsolidation offers even more precise ways to achieve that in the future. The goal seems to be shifting from total erasure to something more nuanced, targeted emotional modification. It's about making the memory less toxic, less debilitating, less of a continuous present threat, while still allowing the individual to retain their personal history and the lessons learned. It's about finding a way to live with the memory rather than being constantly haunted by it. And in many ways, that might be a more humane, more ethical, and ultimately more achievable goal than simply trying to wipe it clean. The journey of healing, of learning to integrate and grow, is a powerful human experience. And perhaps, even without erasure, that journey offers its own profound form of freedom.